today is, just to talk about how BKB as a company has been facing up to the digital disruption. And how I would like to do that is just to describe maybe the reality that we as a business are facing in this changing digital world. And maybe then to a certain thing, there's a changing landscape with regards to our environment and where we are working in. And then with that, you get the Industry 4.0 and the type of challenges that the Industry 4.0 is bringing to us as a business. Now, with that as a backdrop, then I would like then to talk to you through how we are facing up to the digital transformation roadmap, and basically how BKB as a business has been doing that. That then led to the forming of a business unit called BKB Shift that I'm now heading up with. So I think that the world is really changing really fast, and I think what has happened recently is that I think COVID-19 has just brought something totally different to all of us and the environment that we are now need to work in. But the reality is that the world is a better place. And you can look at stats with regards to the world population, how the literacy of the people has gone up. And the fact that we've got now kids that are sitting in Kenya that has the same access to the same education than the Queen of the UK might have. We see dropping in mortality. People are living longer. I think the COVID has brought now definitely a rise in the influence that natural disasters have. But over the past 20 years, we've seen a major drop and people dying because of this. So even families are having less kids. The stats are saying that on average, the world population is now looking at like 2 kids per family. So there is a slowdown in all of that. And I think at the end of the day, you can really look at this and say this is all about technology and how technology has an influence on the world that we are now living in. One thing that I would like to point out with regards to technology and where we are going, we need to understand that bandwidth cost is being reduced. There's been a significant drop in the cost of bandwidth. Now you need to park these two concepts: bandwidth cost, computing cost, the ability or the cost that it actually is for a computer to work through large scale volumes of data, and together with that, the cost of storage. Now, storage cost in all three of those has dropped significantly over the past 20 years. That plays an important role in any discussion that the business is having with regards to where we are going with the world we need to face. You will find that a lot of business will sometimes say that it's too expensive, artificial intelligence are too expensive, and that technology per se is too expensive. But we need to fight on with regards to this. And I think as all of these costs are being reduced, this is having a significant influence on collecting of information and then eventually on applying artificial intelligence in working through of this. It then brings a specific new type of reality for us as a business. And for me, I think if I look at the future of food that has been done through a census study, the reality is that in 2050, we will be looking at 9.7 billion people in this world if we continue at the rate that we are. Now, I'm saying this in the context that BKB as an agricultural organization, as an agricultural organization on the continent of Africa, clearly has a responsibility with regards to what we as a business are doing and how we are assisting the African continent and producing food for 9.7 billion people. Now, I think where technology comes in, and we need to understand that we've got about 33% of food is wasted in the world. And that's mainly, if you look at developing countries, it is the fact that we are not getting this food to the people that needs it. And in developed countries, it is just an oversupply of food of that. On the other hand, agriculture is struggling with the reality that it is to blame for a lot of climate changes. So agriculture generates about 20% of the global greenhouses gas emissions, and then that contributes to the last 15 years out of the 16. We've seen the hottest that we've ever seen in the 21st century. So a lot of I think Greenpeace people are looking at agri and blames agricultural for this. Then on the other hand, we've got the adoption rate of new consumer technologies. And like I've said previously, as we see drops in cost of these technologies, you are also seeing that there is a lot of adoption. And another thing that is a reality for us, and I know when we get to the African continent, we are talking a lot about small-scale farmers and how we can make small-scale farmers more productive. But the reality is only 1% of the world population are commercial farmers that need to supply food into this agricultural environment. Now, that brings certain market trends for us as a business, and I think for any agricultural business that we need to understand. We are seeing a changing customer preferences. We are seeing that people want more functional food. They want food that's more healthier, that's benefiting their physical appearances. And of course, together with that, food that's environmental friendly packaging, specifically. Straws, for instance, we're not seeing any straws in a lot of shops that's not supplying that, because straws are killing sea turtles, and we're seeing them popping up in the sea. So we as an agricultural business, or agricultural businesses per se, got the responsibility to make sure that we are doing environmental friendly packaging. But not just that, it must also be food that is good for us. On the one hand, we've got the changing consumer preferences, but on the other hand, we are looking at food safety and transparency. Biosecurity is a big thing, and I think even more so when we get into this COVID-19 and the lessons that we learned through COVID-19, is that we need to understand that there is that we will have to do more about food security. We need to give more information with regards to the food that we eat, and we need to pinpoint the safety issues that there might be. Previously, and what we've seen in South Africa is that we've seen that a problem that was arising, I think it was 2018, with regards to listeriosis on the polonies that specifically killed a lot of people. The reality of what happened in that industry, because they couldn't pinpoint the security issue, they needed to remove all of the polonies. So I think we need to understand, and quickly through the supply chain, and the previous speakers have spoken about supply chain, need to identify where the safety issues are. Now, with regards to the rising uncertainties, as COVID-19 has brought a lot of uncertainties, there's also tariffs. We are exposed to the dollar exchange rate. We are exposed to transportation, interest rates, and then, of course, the rising labor cost. And what another uncertainty is now all the social responsibility that's also going to be leveraged on us as a business. Together with that, and I think the reality that I would like to talk about is innovation with regards to differentiation that's happening. We as a business will have to constantly look at how we are differentiating ourselves and how we are developing new products into different channels. It's not just about that, it's also about that we need to, this disruption that is coming, and I would like to talk to you about an example of that. I think a article that has recently saw the light is that a business like Amazon is all of a sudden now into the supply chain. And Amazon is, as a company that has formed as a book company, is now all of a sudden disrupting a business like BKB, who is a South African business sitting here in the Eastern Cape. All of a sudden now, Amazon, from a state company, is now into our value chain. But I think the reality that Amazon really brings is that this big, giant neon sign that is flashing for us as a business and saying that if Amazon can enter into our supply chain, we need to wake up and understand what the reality is for us. So I think we cannot continue to do stuff that we've always done. We need to understand that the way things has always been done cannot be the way that it will have to be continued. Now, I think this is not just relevant to us as a business, but I think it's relevant for going forward and how we need to address certain challenges in our supply chain. Now, the reality is that we are seeing different types of way of producing food. And I think the previous speakers in the previous session has talked about this sourcing of locally, and I do very much agree that if you look at very successful companies in the States, they are very much focusing on delivering a solution to, or they are making use of local produce and bringing that to the customers. Now, on the one side, we are talking about this changing environment, and we are talking about the reality. And I think one thing that is standing out for me is that in the next 7 to 5 years, 4.2 billion people are going to be added to the digital economy. Now, what I mean with the digital economy, I'm talking about the world of a cell phone. That if we specifically start talking about Africa, we are seeing children and even elderly people that's sitting with a smartphone in their hand and now has an access to a certain economy that they previously did not have access to. And the question then arises is, how are we as a business making sure that we are addressing the challenges that is coming with that? And I think that then leverage us to the Industry 4.0. Now, a lot of businesses does not necessarily, understand Industry 4.0 in the right sense. And I think what I would like to explain is that together with the changing environment that we're sitting on the one hand, Industry 4.0 brings a certain set of technologies to us as a business. So any business, even if your business are sitting there are a certain set of technologies that is coming that is going to disrupt your industry. And the question is, which one of these do you need to adopt into your business to eventually have a successful transformation into the digital economy? Now, Industry 4.0 then have 4 categories, as explained by the World Economic Forum, in which they are referring to the extended digital technologies, which consist of new computing technologies. And I think that new computing technologies is very much the fact that data storage is becoming cheaper, the ability to have computers to work through all of this data is becoming cheaper. And I think blockchain and distributed ledger, and I will very much reference that later on to my talk, and how we are now taking blockchain and seeing how we're utilizing that in the value chain. And then the Internet of Things. And what the Internet of Things? The Internet of Things is not necessarily just a fridge that has the ability to talk to your phone or to tell you what needs to buy, but it's really something that is practically being used on farms today. Now, we're also seeing a reforming of the physical world. We are talking about artificial intelligence and robotics, advanced materials, and additive manufacturing and multidimensional printing. The question is, especially when we talk to our African cousins, what is the reality of having the ability to print a part in your shed or on your farm, and not necessarily be so reliant on a well-functional infrastructure. On the other hand, we are looking at the altering of the human being. Biotechnologies, neurotechnologies, virtual and augmented reality is all realities that we need to also see. And I think in BKB sense, and I will tell you a little bit more about BKB in a second, I think we've been very much over the past few years being in the biotechnologies where we are looking at how we are genetically improving the performance of our stock. Then on the other hand, and the last one is the integrated of the environment. And how many of we've seen this on the African continent? We are seeing energy capturing, storage and transmission that has been setting up. We're seeing windmills all over the country. We're seeing that in Africa, especially with the challenges that we've had with Eskom. A lot of these things have been popping up over the past 10 years, where we are becoming more efficient with regards to energy. So what I would like to explain to you now is a little bit more about who BKB is, who we as a company is, and I think then I would like to go into what the digital world and how we've transformed that. So BKB is a company that has been in business for more than 100 years. Our head office is situated here in Port Elizabeth. Um, Talking about energy, we supply all our own energy through solar panels that we have on our roof. We've got about 70,000 customers on our ERP, but together with that, we serve about 35 additional emerging farmers, specifically in the Eastern Cape areas. Our employee base is in the region of 1,500, and we employ another 2,500 seasonal workers that share about 6 million sheep for the business. BKB traditionally has been in the wool business, handling about 60% of the country's wool clip in a 90,000 square meter wool store that is here in Port Elizabeth. We support the supply chain through 52 retail branches countrywide, and then we do livestock auctioneering. We sell about 1 million animals per year, and for every working day of the year, we host about 6 auctions somewhere in the country. We own an RFID business down in Cape Town that very much specializes in agri-system integrations for these animals. We also sell properties for our farmers, and then have diverted a few years back into grain storage as an alternative storage base for our customers. We have 2 grit mills that does yellow grit maize, then into the cereal market that is for yellow maize, and we've got a alpha of Lucerne factory that has high press exports of Lucerne to the Middle East and Africa. We also have a financial services that support these farmers with advances and loans that is very much short-term based. We recently bought a sugar business that is situated in Swaziland that makes us now a true African company. And we also export raisins, and we are seen as the 2nd largest exporter of raisins in the country. BKB supports a lot of our training courses, and we employ about 33 hearing impaired people here in Port Elizabeth, and we've done about 812 of our beneficiaries has gone through training programs. Now, so this is a 100-year-old business that has formed, and it's become a real showcase in how we are looking at and how we are actually addressing the digital transformation for BKB. So I would like to tell you a little bit about our marketing ecosystem. I would then like to go on to talk about the Internet of Things and how we are utilizing blockchain, and eventually what the future holds with regards to artificial intelligence. Now, we started a few years back with regards to digital marketing ecosystem, because what we've seen is that the world of traditional print, that we had magazines and the weekly newspaper as a medium to talk to our customers, has just been declining over the past 10 years significantly. Now, this is nothing negative to these media houses, but the reality is that our customer has moved. And we cannot have a decent discussion with our customers through the traditional means of media anymore. We as a business had to find the alternative ways of talking to our customers. And that alternative ways is, of course, where those customers have moved in finding the news and finding the information. That has led us to create a full digital ecosystem that now utilize Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook specifically, YouTube, Instagram, MailChimp, and all of these type of things that creates the ability for us to tell our stories and then create relevant content that drives our customers into the business. And through that customer engagement leads to data that we then pull into a centralized ERP that is then converted into a micro type of environment of understanding exactly what each client's name is. That allows us as a business then also to talk more effectively back to our customers and how we are addressing their needs. What has happened in the business is very much then a total remarketing and the way we address our customers. We are seeing that, BKB as a business is a brokerage business. So 60% of our income is being generated from commissions that we generate. And it's bringing a willing seller and a willing buyer to a marketplace, and then how well we facilitate that transaction then generates a certain margin for us or a commission, as we know. So that has led us to also understand the market better and making sure that we bring more buyers to that specific market when it gets to specifically auctioneering of animals. I would like then to go on about the Internet of Things, and I alluded previously that we as a business own a company called RFID Experts down in Cape Town, and what they have is, of course, RFID technology. This is not just about the tags that goes into the animal's ears, but also about the scales that weighs those tags. So what happens when you are tagging an animal is that you are putting an electronic tag in his ear, and you are making a physical animal now creating a digital twin for him. So I think now you need to just work with me with regards to the process, and I would like to explain this. Is the animal that is a physical animal gets an electronic tag. An electronic tag then generates a digital twin. So as that physical animal moves through the value chain, more and more information is generated with that tag and then placed onto something like the blockchain. Now, what we've done is we've created a full profile around this animal that consists of, when he was born, what vaccinations he's got, where he physically was born, which becomes really important when it gets to biosecurity, how he was processed, what age he is, how his growth was per day. It becomes all relevant. I think once we've got a physical animal, that then allows us to start moving on to the blockchain and distributed ledger. Now, maybe the blockchain is something that is difficult for certain people to understand, and it's not about cryptocurrencies, but it's really just a distributed ledger that is sitting on various nodes, which is also called servers, that has a record of that specific transaction that you put up. Now, the blockchain is quite relevant when it gets to the value chain, because it is not a central database, but it is a distributed database that has information with regards to whatever you need to prove on it. For me personally, I think for us as a business, getting involved in something like blockchain, the penny dropped for me when I looked at a TED talk, and the person that was presenting was talking about that the blockchain will enhance trust, which is exactly does. BKB's business model has been for the past 100 years all about trust. We actually pride ourselves in calling ourselves the trusted home of agriculture. So if there's technology that's going to disrupt our business model, it's very much going to be the blockchain. And therefore, it allowed us then to start looking at the blockchain. And as we've gone through this 2-year process of developing a commercial blockchain that is really a mutually inclusive business, we have learned a lot. We have learned a lot with regards to how the blockchain works and how it needs to work into a shared economy where it is not just for something that can work for BKB, but for all the specific participants onto the blockchain. Now, how we are applying this very much to the specific integrated value chain in BKB, we are adding that to an animal. We are putting that animal on through an RFID scale. And as we are collecting more and more information, we are pulling that through the value chain that is then pushed into the blockchain that becomes something relevant for something like that. Eventually, as we are gathering more and more information, that allows us then to put that into a central database and then start generating more artificial intelligence of creating profiles around a farm, and then making sure that we are applying the right type of animals to the right place. So I know my time is a little bit running short now, but eventually I think what has left us now is to create a business in BKB that is called Shift. It's a business that is sitting separately, that is being developed specific to assist an environment or the economy where we can take these Industry 4.0 technologies, put it into a business, and then generate a shared type of environment where we can make sure that we are facilitating digital transformation, specifically when it gets to customer experience and business models, not just for BKB, but for a broader base of customers that can actually start enjoying not these technologies. It's not something that is just for BKB, but at the end of the day, is something that we can share in an economy that is it's much broader. So once again, guys, my apologies for not having the ability to share my presentation. I'm more than willing to share this on LinkedIn for you, in specific, if you would like to see that the physical action. So I really appreciate the guys that is so I've looked at this. Ben has a late stage statement here. The importance of local production technology. So, if there's any specific questions that you guys would like to ask, I'm more than willing to assist that. But otherwise, feel free to drop me a LinkedIn message. I am on LinkedIn, and I will share my presentation with you guys. I really appreciate those of my colleagues that was on and listening to this discussion. Hello, Wendy.
Hi, and thank you very much for your talk. Pity about the presentation.
But the reason, Wendy, I can't hear you. I don't know why.
You hear me now?
Can anybody else hear Wendy? Oh, okay. Rob says he can hear me. Maybe it's just me.
Excellent. Okay. I just wanted to thank you very much for your presentation, and just encourage anybody who's interested to receive the presentation to get in touch. I think if I will drop the email address for Jaco in the chat so that you can get in touch. If you have any questions, anybody for Jaco, would you just drop it into the chat? He'll be able to pick them up and respond to them. And then once you've completed in this session, if you just all join us on the networking, where the system will randomly connect you to other attendees for a 3-minute chat, which you can leave earlier than the 3 minutes if it's not of interest. And if you both would like to further connect, you both click the connect button and you'll be able to chat to each other. So over to Jaco to pick up on any questions from the chat. Otherwise, if you'd also move over to the networking, that'll be great because it is up and running already.
Yeah, I think I'd like to once again say sorry for my technical problems. I've had a lot today, but I do appreciate it. And I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is really create a shared environment where we want to create a platform and a shared economy that is not just necessarily for us as BKB, but can actually share and solve a lot of problems for our colleagues, even in Africa.
Great. Thank you, Jaco, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys, for doing it. Appreciate it. Bye.